Welcome, everyone, to the Marijuana Times Show. I am your host, Joe Klare. It's February 21st, 2018. You find myself and many other great writers over at marijuanatimes.org. Find all these videos there as well. Every episode of the Marijuana Times Show, easily shareable for your social media networks. You can also search Apple Podcasts for the Marijuana Times Show to get the audio-only version of the show. For those of you on the go, today we're talking about a lot of great stuff, including the Veterans Administration. Story from Julia Granowitz over at marijuanatimes.org. Also, we'll hear from a Cook County commissioner who uses medical marijuana as a legal medical marijuana patient and has been championing medical marijuana and even recreational marijuana legalization for quite a while now. Also, are beer companies scared of legal marijuana? Well, they may be, and they may be for good reason. All that's coming up. First, of course, to tell you, the Marijuana Times Show is brought to you by Cannabis.com and their line of all natural, organic pesticides. If you're a cannabis cultivator, you don't want to use harmful chemicals, you want to grow safe and poison-free. You also don't want to run afoul of various regulations that may be enacted or soon to be enacted in your state. Natureside's line of products are listed on the approved for use in the cultivation of marijuana list in Colorado, Washington, and Oregon State by all of those agricultural departments. Grow safe, poison-free with an awesome sponsor of the Marijuana Times Show, NaturesideCannabis.com. Side is spelled C-I-D-E, Natureside Cannabis. They are awesome. Go check them out. This first story, as I said, is from Julia over at marijuanatimes.org. VA to finally consider medical marijuana for veterans. PTSD affects at least 20% of United States veterans who were in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. And for many of them, treatments like prescription medications and therapy simply aren't effective. In many states, PTSD is a qualifying condition for medical marijuana, which should give these veterans access to another alternative treatment. Unfortunately, people at the VA, they say no. They say their doctors cannot talk to patients, veterans who have PTSD, about medical marijuana. Even in states where it is legal, in the last couple of years, we've come closer to veterans having legal access to medical marijuana, but it still remains out of grasp for anyone going through the Department of Veterans Affairs, otherwise known as the VA. Until now, the VA's constant answer was that regardless of state law, they are not permitted to prescribe medical marijuana to patients, and that federal law restricted their ability to conduct research involving medical marijuana or to refer veterans to such projects. This week, however, Marijuana Moment pointed out that there have been changes to the VA's website, now stating that they may be able to investigate the plant's efficacy as an option for treating veterans. Think about this. It is 2018. There are many, many things that are crazy about marijuana laws. There are many incongruities. There's just things that just don't seem right in any way, shape, or form. And perhaps the top of that list is the fact that those that we give a gun and go overseas to kill people, and they see their buddies blown up and killed, and they live with the constant threat of being killed and being blown up, and they're constantly on alert for a year or more in many cases. And they get back here, maybe they have some problems sleeping, maybe they have nightmares, maybe they don't want to go certain places, maybe they don't want to be around anxiety-ridden situations. All of that, taking all of that account and then say, oh, is smoking a joint help? No, we can't do that. No. Smoking a joint helps? Too bad. Here's a bunch of pills. When I say a bunch of pills, I mean a bunch. Take all of them every day. But no, if you use marijuana or want to talk about marijuana or want to try to get a legal medical marijuana card in your state where it's legal, then no. Can't even talk about that. Get out of my office. The ridiculousness knows no bounds when it comes to, well, in many ways, the way the VA treats veterans, but this is just one of them. As Tom Angels pointed out over a Marijuana Moment, they've been crying that, Well, it's the feds that have been preventing us from talking, but no, it's actually the VA rules. And apparently they're looking to change those in an unobtrusive, unnoticed way, which, however it happens, great. Why a VA doctor in a state where medical marijuana is legal can't talk to a veteran about medical marijuana? Whose business is it anyway? Since when is it the business of anyone what you talk about with your doctor or what your doctor talks about with you? I thought there was like privacy involved. I don't know. I heard something about that. Something about privacy? Medical privacy? I don't know. Maybe I misheard. Maybe that's not what they were talking about. I don't know. As I said many times, I'm just a guy, does a little podcast, video show, does some writing. What do I know? I'm pretty sure I heard there's something about medical privacy or something. I know. It seems weird, but it is what it is. This next story is about Cook County Commissioner who's pushing to legalize recreational marijuana. He also says he uses pot regularly to treat a medical condition. John Fritchley received his medical cannabis card from the state in May 2017 and smokes a concentrated form of the drug. The Chicago Democrat had significant surgery last year and as well as a hip replacement, but he declines to give the reason. The doctor certified him to use medical marijuana. He explained, I hope everyone would understand people want to have a right to medical privacy. Oh, there it is. I heard it before that, but just to drive home the point, there it is. Frischley's long been, according to the Chicago Tribune, a backer of medical marijuana and marijuana legalization. He backed the legalization of medical marijuana as a state lawmaker in 2004, some 9 years before Illinois' law was approved. In 2011, he backed decriminalization in the city and came out in favor of legalization in Chicago. Now he's the primary sponsor of a March 20th primary election referendum asking Cook County voters if they favor legalization for recreational use. It's only advisory. It would not have the force of law if approved. Now, apparently his talking about medical marijuana with the Chicago Tribune triggered a lot of questions from people. So he went to the YouTubes and made a video about his medical marijuana use. So, ladies and gentlemen, Cook County Commissioner John Fritchley. Some real talk about marijuana.
Hi, I'm Cook County Commissioner John Fritchley. For decades now, the so-called war on drugs, especially on marijuana.
It's my bad. John Fritchley. I was calling him John Fritchley, but it clearly says right here on a screen, not even 2 feet from my face, John Fritchley. And just to drive home, again, my error, he correctly, of course, says his own name.
Has been a complete failure that's done nothing more than waste millions of taxpayer dollars and given tens of thousands of people an arrest record that's done nothing more than make it harder for them to do simple things like get a job, rent an apartment, or even get a student loan. A decade ago, I was one of the original sponsors of legislation that eventually became Illinois' medical cannabis law. I did it because I believed then, as I do now, that there are proven uses of cannabis to provide relief for people suffering from all types of illnesses. Little did I know then that I would eventually become a card holder myself. Lately, you've probably been hearing about my efforts to legalize recreational use of marijuana for adults 21 years of age and over. It's a common sense policy that will not only unclog our court system, but eventually generate hundreds of millions of dollars in new revenue while creating hundreds, if not thousands, of new jobs. Because when it comes to recreational use of marijuana, it's time to legalize and regulate, not demonize and incarcerate. In an effort to help us reach this goal, I was able to put a referendum question on the upcoming March ballot that will let Cook County voters weigh in on the important issue of whether or not they support legalization of recreational use of marijuana. So this March, let your voice be heard on this important issue, and I hope that you'll support me in my re-election as Cook County Commissioner. I'm John Fritchley. Thanks for your time.
So John Fritchley, not John Fritchley. John Fritchley, if you ever see this, sorry, why? I thought there was an L there. I don't know. It's right here. It's right there. It's all in front of me. Very clear what his name is. So anyway, but at least he's one of those people. You hear about people who are like, they use medical marijuana or they know someone uses medical marijuana on the sly, but they're still out there fighting against it. This guy has been walking the walk long before he talked the talk, or did he talk the talk long before he walked the walk? I don't know. He did one way before the other. He became a medical marijuana patient in 2017. He sponsored a medical marijuana law back in 2004. So he's been a great champion for medical marijuana and now recreational marijuana. if you live in Cook County, the Chicago area of Illinois, re-elect John Fritchie. Don't look for John Fritchley on the ballot. John Fritchie, and vote on that referendum. Again, it's not binding, but obviously if there's a big number like 70% in Cook County say they want recreational marijuana, that's something the politicians have to pay attention to and maybe do something about. I say maybe because obviously it's non-binding, so they don't have to do anything at all about it. But maybe they might get around to doing something about it. We'll see. This last story is from the Cannabis. Molson Coors Brewing Company now considers legal cannabis a potential risk factor to its business. Molson Coors, which maintains headquarters in Denver and Montreal, on Wednesday joined the growing ranks of established traditional publicly traded companies to address the burgeoning marijuana industry in annual financial reports filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. It's known as a 10-K filing. And officials for the multinational brewer disclosed they're keeping a close watch on how legal cannabis sales affects customers' pocket money and ultimately sales of beers like Molson Canadian, Miller, and Coors. So basically, there is a routine and required risk factor disclosures to the SEC. Molson Coors, for example, their latest 10K includes more than 40 risks on 10 pages of filing. Basically, it's something that they have to disclose to the Securities and Exchange Commission that they're looking at as a possible competition, a possible future problem for them, and depending on what the company is and what industry they're in, it could be a ton of different things. Colin Wheeler, a Molson Coors spokesman, told the Cannabis quote, as the legal landscape changes in Canada and evolves in the U.S., we are working actively to understand the impacts on our business, if any, and the range of appropriate responses in the interest of our company and our stakeholders. We'll take our time to get it right, consistent with our values as a company and our commitment to responsibility, so on and so forth. And this is fine. I mean, it's one thing for beer companies and liquor companies to recognize what kind of impact cannabis legalization will have on their business. If this leads to something along the lines of, say, them giving a bunch of money to politicians to fight marijuana legalization, that's where the problem comes in. When they try to fight and keep other people considered criminals because they're afraid of what's going to do to their bottom line. Now, the correct response from a beer company is if you think a business is growing and it might impact or an industry is growing and is going to grow and it might impact your business, well, maybe you do something to get in on that, to take advantage of that. Boston Beer Company, maker of Sam Adams, and Craft Brew Alliance, maker of Kona and Omission beers, also disclosed cannabis legalization as a potential negative impact. But some beer companies, like Constellation Brands, they invested $190 million in Canadian marijuana firm Cannabis Growth Corporation, where they plan to eventually develop cannabis beverages for adults. Now, obviously, you monitor it on behalf of your shareholders and see how it's going to affect your business. But then you do something like that. Get in on it. It's a huge, burgeoning industry. If you don't want to be left behind, diversify. Make it part of what you're doing. If not, maybe find something else that can increase sales. But the problem is when, politicians are influenced to vote against measures that would keep people who are infringing on the rights of no one as criminals, that's a problem. And wherever we see that happening, that's what we'll stand up. Because it is. If people are using a lot of money to buy marijuana, and maybe they can get marijuana legally now, so they don't have to worry about, maybe the only reason they were drinking is because they wanted something, to do at a party or at home or whatever. Maybe they're drinking wine. They do that because it's legal and it's easy to go to the liquor store and get. But if there's a store you can go to and buy some marijuana, well, maybe some people are going to do that. Maybe they'll forego the alcohol. Maybe they don't want the hangover. Maybe they'd rather not have the hangover. And they were just doing that because it was easier to get. But now they can go to a store and buy marijuana. So why do they need alcohol? Well, maybe they won't. And I understand that's worrying to beer companies. So do what Constellation Brands is doing. They're going to make cannabis beverages for adults. There you go. You already make adult beverages. Add some cannabis. Boom. You're in the industry. And you're bringing your expertise to a new sector of the industry. You know beverages. You know adult beverages. You know all about that stuff. Add some cannabis. Boom, you got cannabis adult beverages. Who doesn't want one of those? I want one right now. Just talking about it. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the Marijuana Times Show. Make sure you like and comment on the videos on Facebook and on YouTube and over at marijuanatimes.org. Thank you to naturesidecannabis.com for being a proud sponsor of the show. And check out their organic, all-natural pesticides. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out and spreading the word about the Marijuana Times Show. You are helping us spread the truth about cannabis. It's been a great show. February 21st, 2018. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the Marijuana Times Show. We'll see you next time.